Tom Downey here for NFL Daily. We are 3 weeks in, and the coaches who are starting to feel the pressure a little bit, starting to become a little bit more obvious. Coaches get fired every year, multiple coaches each year. So before I break down my top 8 hot seat list, how many NFL head coaches end up getting fired this year? Let me know in the comments section of today's show. Number 8 on my list, and I would have issues if they did this, but Kevin Stefanski, who's a 2-time coach of the year, by the way, keeps popping up high on hot seat rankings. 11-5 in 2020, 8-9, 7-10, 11-6 in 2023, just the one playoff win, and the Browns look disjointed on offense, and he is an offensive mind. I will say this. I think firing Kevin Stefanski would be a mistake. You messed up going after Deshaun Watson. And you got a bunch of injuries as well that's really impacting your personnel and your ability to have success there. I have seen Stefanski win games with old man Joe Flacco and do an offense that somehow worked. I am far more inclined to focus on the quarterback issue and the head coaching issue when I've seen the head coach have success with not great quarterbacks like Flacco. Number 7, Nick Sirianni. Look, Sirianni kind of falls into a category of another guy we'll get to here in a little bit where, the regular season is great. I think they're going to have success again. I think they win the division. Philadelphia is not afraid to make a decision quickly. They are not afraid to go, hey, you got us to a Super Bowl 2 years ago? Okay. Hasn't worked out since then, bye. They did it with Doug Pederson, who you will see on this list again, which is very fitting there, by the way. I would say this. Sirianni's on the list. He's on the low end of the list unless they start losing games, or check back again later in the season. Check back again in January. In December if it comes to it. The expectations are high in Philly, as they should be, and the trigger is quick. You fired both coordinators last year. That is one of the first steps of the speed run of I'm on the hot seat. It's some ordering of we're going to bench the quarterback. We fired the OC. We fired the DC. I took over play calling. Those things, those are your red flags of, you're on the hot seat, bud. Who do you think ends up being the first NFL head coach fired this year? It's the pinned comment on today's show, so if the ad comes on YouTube, take advantage of it. Head down there and let me know. Number 6, Antonio Pierce, the Raiders head coach. Now, I would be far more inclined to give him more time, in part because I can't keep flipping out head coaches. The Raiders have done, between the John Gruden firing, the Josh McDaniels disaster class, and now with Pierce, they have fired too many coaches. I also think that you're doing week 3 and you're calling out your players for business decisions and talking about, you're not committed to your quarterback, which all are fine, is kind of the speed run of I'm feeling the pressure in the hot seat. I think you have to give him more time, especially when he's only 3 games in. But, man, it can't lose to Carolina, Vegas. Was that Raiders game a flash in the pan, or was it Carolina? We'll know in the next month or so. Number 5, Zac Taylor of the Bengals. Now, there's a troubling trend that you have noticed on this list, no? 2 wins in 2019, 4 wins in 2020, 10 wins in 2020. They made that magical playoff run. They should have won. I don't think it was DPI by Logan Wilson, but I digress. 12 wins in 2022, just 9 last year, and they've made the same mistake again. This Bengals team, it's the definition of insanity. They suck every September. They are a legitimately bottom 5 football team every September. Then the calendar turns, and they're playing catch up and trying to fight and claw their way in because they've blown 2 games. They have lost 2 games. They should have won. They should be 2-1, and they are now playing catch up and facing an improbable statistic. 6 teams in NFL playoff history have made the postseason, Super Bowl era, after starting the year 0-3. That is a 2% chance. You are banking on, again, being an exception. You can't keep doing this. The prime Joe Burrow years, especially when he's healthy, cannot be wasted by bad play calling, a team that apparently doesn't seem ready and locked in to go. All of that can't keep happening. If Taylor can't get the Bengals back on track, you have to consider changes. That includes him. Plus, you can get those Joe Brady rumors fired back up again. Today's show was made possible by BetUS, and they have some odds for you. The first NFL head coach fired odds. Doug Pederson leads the way. I think that is the correct bet. We'll talk about him in a little bit. Mike McCarthy, Brian Daboll, I think Kevin Stefanski is way too high. I think that's a mistake, but I digress. Then Antonio Pierce, talk about Matt Eberflus and more. If you feel confident in one of those guys to get fired first, I already put money on Pederson, go to BetUS at chatsports.com/bet. We'll take you right into the site. Use promo code NFLDaily for a 125% deposit bonus, as long as you put down at least 100. That's chatsports.com/bet, promo code NFLDaily. Let's go to number 4, the Giants and Brian Daboll. I am very conflicted overall about Daboll. I think there are some good things and some not good things. And when you don't have the personnel, especially at quarterback, that stuff really shows up. They achieved well beyond their actual talent level in 2022. They went 9-7-1, and I think the organization as a whole got tricked. They weren't as close as they thought they were. And they were bad last year, and they're 1-2 this year. And the reality is, Daniel Jones has never actually been a good NFL QB. People hyped up that 2022 campaign. He wasn't actually that good. He just got lucky and wasn't making as many mistakes because he had some fumbles, bounces away, some dropped interceptions, and then he regressed back to the mean, and this is who he is. So it's tough to blame him for that. That's probably more of a Joe Schoen mistake. But there are cracks in the foundation. The Don Martindale relationship between him and Daboll fell apart. And Daboll was not being a great leader, if you believe the reports on it, where he was kind of, blaming Martindale, saying that it was the defense's fault when it clearly wasn't. He took control full-time of the play-calling duties. That is only done by coaches on the hot seat because the results aren't where they want it to be. I think there's a chance if things go sideways, Giants go, you're out of here. And they can maybe bring in Bill Belichick. Big game coming up for both Daboll and the guy we'll get to number higher on this list. C for the Cowboys, G for the Giants. A key Thursday night football matchup. Who you got winning in that one? Number 3, the Bears and Matt Eberflus. He saved his job last year. He was very much trending towards getting fired. And they closed the year on a heater. The defense was playing great. And now you're facing down this reality where you are on the verge of making the exact same mistake you've made previously. Your head coach didn't have good results, but you brought him back for one more year, and you paired him with a first-year QB, and the head coach isn't good enough. That's a bad spot to be in because now you're flipping offenses again. You're not setting up Caleb Williams for success. The skill guys are great. The offensive line is not. And the offensive coordinator seems to be in a bit over his head. They don't really seem to know what they want to do. And if you're not a head coach that's a play caller on offense and you're a defensive guy, you can't miss on 2 OC hires. That's how you get fired. That's what the Bears are staring down. Did Chicago make a mistake keeping Matt Eberflus? Y for yes, N for no. Number 2, it's Mike McCarthy. I don't think that McCarthy is maybe around a league average coach, somewhere in that range. Like, he hasn't been the worst NFL head coach, but the results are certainly not where they need to be right now. Like, he won a bunch of games in Green Bay. In almost every other NFL job, 3 straight 12-win seasons, you get an extension. It's not the case right now in Dallas. Now, I do feel like the Cowboys ownership and Jerry Jones have set Mike up for failure. They did him dirty because they made his team worse and said, go have more success. When I think pretty clearly that's just never going to work. That's not how That's an unrealistic expectation. But that doesn't excuse McCarthy from his own mistakes. He's made a bunch of them. His teams just look unprepared. His schematics, again, this is not the first time it's happened. Hey, a Mike McCarthy offense looks stale. Not doing the things that your players are best at. I don't think he maximizes his talent. I think he had a lucky run with Aaron Rodgers, frankly. I get major dead man walking vibes. I think he knows it, too. Now, we will do head coach replacement videos when these guys end up getting fired, if not on the team channels here on Chat Sports. Hit that sub button, youtube.com/chatsportstv. Number 1 is Doug Pederson. I would argue that loss, prime time, after ownership came out and said this is the best team I've ever assembled, we've spent the money, now go win games, and you get the crap kicked out of you by Buffalo, and your quarterback looks like he's seeing ghosts out there and doesn't look comfortable, and all this other stuff, that's bad. Doug Pederson flamed out in Philadelphia. I thought he got a short end of the stick. Maybe I was wrong. You can't be a sub-500 coach in Jacksonville when they've spent money for you. Can't do it. And I think there are some mistakes he's made. Why are you so adamant that you're riding with Press Taylor? He's not good. I don't like the Jags' offensive scheme. The Jags across the board look disjointed. It looks like they haven't had a week of practice far too often. They were really good for a half against Miami, and they've been pretty bad since then. You got to start winning games real quick, or it is going to be I don't think that the Cons are a patient ownership group necessarily. They were thinking about it last season. They got Houston this week, then Indy, then the Bears, then the Patriots. You got to go on a run soon. If you get to November and you got 2 wins, see ya. You are so getting fired.